get. So, Taylorfield, what did you think of episode 5 of Hawkeye?
Oh man, what did I not think? To be honest, I mean, it's a little bit of everything,
What the
and
fuck does that even mean? What does that even mean?
it was such a great episode. We got a bunch of emotional moments. We got again between Kate and Hawkeye. Again, not spoilers, but I feel like those two characters, we got some emotional moments on in their development so far in the story, which is great. We got more progression in the story, some cool action sequences, which I was really big fan of, and just some other kind of things to kind of fuel the fire a little bit. Like, hey, I'm you're a little inquisitive on certain characters and certain things, and it's just cool to see how the progression is kind of still going along this trajectory, and just kind of like trying to put all the pieces together on certain characters and how they're fitting into the storyline so far. So I think overall it's good, and it's definitely escalated. Now I'm very curious to see how we kind of get to that like unfolding point in the final episode based on what we had in this, because how many episodes are left?
One.
Uno.
One. Okay, so this is the penultimate episode. Yeah.
I did say that about a couple times.
Did
Yeah.
you? Ooh, it's late. I think that overall we definitely got this episode kind of wrapped up in a pretty good bow, generally speaking. Like, it's not perfectly wrapped,
Pun?
but like
Pun
they
intended?
Put the bow.
Respect?
Yeah. They definitely wrapped the ribbon and get the bow on there, but I still feel like there's a lot of things that are opened up, and I have one thing when we get to spoilers.
Only
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Wow,
just
I got
one-
many
that-
things.
He does one thing and then he's out. He's done for. Kirk and Patzer.
Yes, I'm just gonna come up right out of the gate. This is the best episode, possibly in the MCU shows. Like, honestly, I am just so
Okay.
fucking elated.
Wow.
Again, I saw this like minutes ago, so it's completely recency bias. I'm probably
Did
gonna
this
change
man
my
not
tune.
watch Loki or WandaVision?
I'm
you
not
know?
even thinking about those shows right now because this episode was so fucking good. Oh my god, I was on the edge of my seat from the start to the finish of this episode. I think it was so fucking good. It was the exact same runtime, I think, as the last week's episode, but still, it just felt paced so much better. The content that was in it was just so good. God fucking damn it, I love this episode. It was so good. Like Taylor mentioned, there's some good emotional stuff. There was some really good action scenes, but those are just so like overshadowed about the other moments that happened in this episode. I I was like really engaged in like watching the time just to like see like how close I was to the end, and I was kind
Yeah.
of surprised where I was at in the middle of the episode, but still I wouldn't change absolutely anything about this episode. I think it was so phenomenal. I'm so excited to talk about the meat and potatoes, get right into it, but overall like I think some worries that I had from last week's episode of just like where we are nearing the end of the show. As Taylor's reminded us all, this is the penultimate episode.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that. Shit.
And I'm so less worried than what I was last week. I'm excited to talk about why that is. But yeah, no, I'm let's just get right into it. Screw Travis's. No, I'm kidding. Travis,
Going to
what do you think of
spoilers.
this episode?
End of the episode. Rate the season. No, I really enjoyed it. I think it's funny you talk about the issues you have. That I think that we were talking a lot last week of like, okay, we got 2 episodes left. How are we going to wrap this all up? I think we definitely are wrapping it up. I do think some of the stuff is kind of what we talked about, coming to a screeching rush of like, okay, that issue is boom, 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 boom. Okay, it's done, and then we're moving on. It's like, okay, I'm happy it's wrapped up. We've talked about it before. I think this will clearly get a second season, but I think this was much more up to stuff. This like matched what I like about the previous episodes. I'd have to see, because other than last week, all the episodes for me have been great, and they've been like, you maybe a little bit better here or there for something, like, oh, I like this, but yeah, as always, gotta rock the one and only Pew Boy shirt. Just the future, fanboy Clay, if you're listening, it's the future of the MCU. Florence Pugh, like, no spoiler, right? She was in last week. She's been in all the promos. She just fucking kills it. She's just, as I've said before, I could make the case that she's the best actress in the world right now. I always go back and forth between Lupita, and I feel like you see that. As good as Renner is and as good as Seinfeld is, it just feels like Pugh's just on like a different kind of stratosphere. She's on that Adam Driver, just like, yeah, you can't touch her, So she's a knock on this episode. We'll talk about that. Pacing, yeah, I agree, was really good. I really liked, even though it felt maybe a little rushed, I liked some of the results of the storylines, and I think they did a good job of setting up not just only next week, but a lot of brick building towards the future. Not just some of the obvious stuff, just things that I was wondering, like, okay, am I interested in this, or I'm gonna look into that. And yeah, I think it was a really good penultimate episode. Next week, I'm very interested to see because like obviously Kirkland's super high and I'm high enough on it. I don't know if I can. Next week's the big decider of where it reaches in the MCU because it's gone back and forth in my rankings. I don't know if it's gonna reach Loki for me because like Loki, obviously bias, was my favorite. That was same thing. That I thought everything was great, but it's all about the finale. I think I can't really say because the finale I'm excited by one thing, but again I worry it could be a bit samey. So really good episode. Really enjoyed it. Obviously, there's some big things we're gonna talk about, and I think this was one of those episodes where last week when it was like, oh, we're back to the LARPers and we're having some fun, like that's all right. This week it didn't feel like a single minute was wasted. It felt like everything was like all killer, no filler. So, and that's what you should be doing in the last 2 episodes. If it was another episode like last week, it would be like, And again, I think last week may be even better when you watch this all together. So, anything else non-spoilers before we take our first ad break here?
Let's get into it.
Kirkland's just rushing us along. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back. We're taking an ad break. And if you've not watched this because there's some big shit going down, please tune out and come right back. So, we will be right back.
Good pun. Good pun.
And we're back. Taylorfield has his hand up. So I feel like there's one obvious place to start, but you got your hand up. So where are you going to take us? 'Cause I swear if you want to talk about fucking like, oh man, there were some lights that looked really cool in this episode. Where are you
going saving it for the spoiler section for that?
I'm going right into the comment section here. I just want to know, like Clay, I want to pick Clay's mind here. This episode did not live up to the hype, but I think the hype was misplaced with this episode and it should be with the finale. So does Clay not like this episode?
Well, no. Okay, so this is what I was going to address them too, because I guarantee you're going to see that a lot. So obviously, I think what he's referring to, and maybe this is, I will give him, I'll say he's right on one thing and wrong on another thing. He's wrong on almost everything. But anyway, so I think when they said, oh, it was when the writers and directors said like, oh, this is going to like break the internet, right? It's going to be crazy. No, it did not. But here's the thing, and this is where we are completely at a disadvantage. We talk about this with trailers, we talk about this with news. If I live in a world where I love Marvel and I watch these shows and I watch these movies, but I'm a mainstream fan and I just kind of have seen things here and there, and I have no idea, I don't hear even a fucking whisper about Wilson Fisk, which we can officially say, whoever it is, which is fucking him. It's Vincent D'Onofrio. We get a little screen grab of it. The Kingpin is officially in the MCU, which is one of those things, as we talked about before, I always say it's not real till it's real. And now it's officially real. It's here. Continuity, timelines, we'll worry about that all later. All that matters is just like JK being back as Jonah, fucking D'Onofrio's back as Kingpin, and we got years of good content left. But I think that's the thing, if you have no idea and you don't follow the rumors like we do or report, we talked about this Kingpin thing probably about a year ago or something, or maybe 8 months ago, of like, hey, there's rumors in the show, and the rumors even said like, yeah, he appears in episode 5, right? So we were fully like, we know exactly where it was. For me, I'm hyped because again, like, I hate to say it, but like, you can always get bonered, right? And that was the level of being so excited and then just like boom, like shut that shit off like a cable bill, like boom, no, you're not getting anything that good. This is, I don't think there's going to be any bonerish things going on with Kingpin. Luckily,
Travis just got canceled.
He's gonna come back in a second. Just
yeah.
There's the bonerish things.
Luckily, he is not in some CGI fat suit and everything like that, which I've said to you guys, and I said to you, I never believed. But when enough scoopers kept posting it about it, and they were probably meeting with each other, you do start to worry. And I was always like, especially because he's in a movie on Netflix and he's skinnier, it's like, fuck, I please don't hope so. So I think, like, does it live up to breaking the internet? No, not really. I don't think there's anything that quality. I think the hype for me is just like the episode being great. But the Fisk of it all, I think we're a bad judge. Clay, you're a bad judge. People that do this type of stuff is bad judge because we knew this was coming maybe 6 or 8 months ago. But I'm still happy because I guess this is kind of when we talked about the show a few episodes ago, when they were hitting the Fisk thing early, I was surprised because I was like, all I'm expecting is him to be introduced. I'm not expecting much. And it seems like that's the route we actually end up going. So from the beginning of the show, I've always expected, I think next week we may get like a one scene with him, an end credit scene, but that's really all I was expecting. I was not expecting the show early on with like, oh, the big guy, this and that. So I'm fine with it. So I think it all depends what side of spectrum you are as far as hype. I'm not sure if you guys want to, address that at all.
No, I'm 100% with you. I think I think I almost like forgot just the specifics of like episode 5. This is where it
Mhm.
appears. I knew he was gonna make it, and I say I knew. I was like 92% sure he was gonna make an appearance in the show. And then when Clint was just kept mentioning the big guy in this episode, I was like, okay, we're getting him in the show. It doesn't matter if it's tonight or next week. I know we're getting
Mhm.
him. Like they can't just
Yeah.
not show him with all these dialogue pieces that we're having with the big guy. And I think it was so well placed. We got like the 144 pixel image of him. I don't give a fuck. I still saw that
looks
was
like a
Vincent
leak.
D'Onofrio.
It looks
Yeah,
like a
it
leak.
does. Yeah, it does. 100%. It's like a photo of someone's phone, kind of like the original. What was it? The leaked Spider-Man No Way Home trailer or something like that. But I'm so hyped on it, honestly. I don't think it's a break the internet thing, but like you said, I think my expectations were in a healthy spot for me to just feel this way after seeing him. But also, he's not even the main reason why I'm so hyped.
Yeah.
It's just like sprinkles on like that perfect ice cream cone or whatever it might be. So that was a great moment for me personally.
All in the Game says MCU writers and directors need to stop doing that. The franchise is big enough for its own hype to generate. Yeah, no, like I agree that they gotta like I think like Paul Bettany when he said like, oh, I share the screen with a crazy like first time actor. I never thought that's shit where you don't want to say breaking internet is a relative term because again, play this scenario in a different world. Play this scenario when it's Luke Skywalker and Mando season 2. If we not heard a fucking peep about Wilson Fisk in this, I do think not break the internet, calm down. But that's just a term, right? Ralph breaks the internet. Like it's just like a meme now. But I think if none of us knew Fisk was in here, people would be going fucking nuts in Twitter.
Oh yeah, they would have been going nuts on Twitter. They would have been going nuts on Twitter, eh, Travis?
It's a great time for my Wi-Fi to be shit right now. But yeah, they would be. So that's where I feel like and you will still get that. There's still like a fun confirmation of it. The Elnor Fisk connection feels a bit clunker now. Elnor is pretty lame villain so far. I disagree because like I don't, it's just like so tangential. And I just feel like, and this could be something that's wrong for me, Jared, but just like, I just feel like Eleanor is being set up for a season 2. We're pretty set on this is going to be a multiple season show. So I don't think it's feels clunky because we just got it introduced. Like if she's reporting as some other big mobster, I think just because it's Fisk and a big character, you might feel that way. But if you do, to each his own, that's fair. But I don't feel right now because we still got more to learn. Taylor, are you sad it's not Tombstone officially?
Yeah, that's usually I'm so on point with my predictions. It's so upsetting. I'm sure they're saving him for season 2 of Hawkeye or the Echo spin-off series though.
Oh, he's probably
the main villain.
He's the main villain of No Way Home. No, that's gonna be the big reveal. Everyone's like, who's the sixth member of the Sinister Six? It's gonna be Tombstone.
He's the leader.
Yeah, Femme McCoy says Eleanor Fisk is the same circle as Netflix Daredevil, Kingpin finding his pawns and manipulating the city. Yeah, and I guess that's why it works for me because Kingpin always just has like a bunch of underlings, right? And she seems like that. We'll talk a bit about that. But Kirklin, well, I guess we just talk about anything more with Fisk because like I feel like we will get a scene of him acting next week. I feel like it'll be brief, whether it's an end credit or something with Eleanor. And that's all I'm wanting. But again, just a very cool moment that no matter how you slice it, like I said, I don't really care about timeline continuity because we have a Kingpin in MCU Marvel. You know, Netflix or sorry, New York Marvel has like probably a new big villain, and plus Hawkeye this whole season, who is an Avenger. Maybe Fisk is not a Avengers level threat, but he says he's scared of Fisk. He said that to his wife that he's scared of Fisk or scared of the big guy. So clearly, I'm assuming that maybe his rise to power happened in the 5 years of the blip. And to me, that endless amount of storytelling possibilities right there.
Absolutely. I feel like the only thing I would mention also on Fisk would be the Cassie situation with Echo. You know, she confronted him there, like, why weren't you in that meeting? It sounds like there's some sketchy things that Echo's starting to realize. And I don't know if that's going to be resolved in the next episode. I don't think so. I think
that's what the Echo show
is. Echo show, exactly. Yeah. And I this was my favorite just appearance of Echo actually, like in the show so far. I thought she was someone that like she was getting bandaged up. She kind of got her ass. I don't want to say she got her ass kicked, but she definitely didn't win the last confrontation that they had. And she's just again like Cassie's trying to get her to just like stop this pursuit, and then when Echo had that showdown with the Ronin, Clint Barton, she just started questioning things on her own front, and I think like this episode got me excited with the character and seeing more of her, and that's not really what I was feeling the first time around. Like I thought she was cool, and I'm like, okay, I'm sure the show will be better than what I'm seeing so far, but this was like a good tee off for what the show is going to be, in my opinion. And I personally, I'm excited to get that route and just see the different side of the Fisk threat and like who he's affecting, not just Clint Barton, and because he's a big boy, he's a big bad threat. So I'm excited to just see how many other characters in the MCU umbrella he's affecting indirectly or directly. So Taylor Field,
Field of
GeekVerse
Geekverse podcast, trying to show us true quality.
So on that note of Fisk, and just this, I guess probably could tie into like Yelena a little bit here. So now at the end of the episode, obviously the text that Kate was getting, I'm assuming, was obviously from Yelena, and she was looking into who hired her based on their conversation they had over macaroni.
It was
right?
unknown, actually. That's what it said in the name. It said unknown.
I assume this is where I'm wondering what the dynamic is, because if she's learning, okay, that who hired her, I'm trying to just see the difference here. Like, okay, if she tracked up Fisk, where's the Val connection into that? Like, where does she connect with Fisk?
Well, I think there's two things. One, either Yelena's full of shit and she's just trying to stir it up because like that'd be a good way to get her off her kilter, right? I don't think that is it. The second is, I guess, Yelena, like Fisk probably says, "Hey, we got this Clint Barton Hawkeye Ronin issue. Deal with it, Eleanor." And then she says, "What's her best way?" There's some sort of undermarket, black market, Etsy or Castanet where you can find your favorite Black Widow assassin. You know, it's like a app you choose them. Oh, I like Yelena, 5-star rating. That's great. And I imagine that's what happened. That whatever Eleanor needed leads to Val, and then leads to Yelena, which is different because in the Black Widow post-credit scene, I thought literally was setting up that Yelena is just going to kill Hawkeye for like revenge. I know she said it was a job. I really thought it was just a like, okay, like point her in a different direction, but it is like literally like a job. So I guess somehow like Eleanor is gonna have some connection to Val, and Kingpin has some connection to Val, and you know, John Walker seems like just the type of guy that Kingpin would love having around, you know, like
Oh yeah, he's a loose cannon. He's the loose cannon that they would love to have on their team. There you go. I buffered enough for Travis to finish what he's saying.
My favorite thing is when you guys are talking, completely fine, nothing happens. But the second I talk, no, I'm just saying that like Val, Elena leads to Val would lead to Kingpin, and I just was saying like I feel like John Walker is the perfect type of guy that Kingpin would want. You know, someone like if I don't think, I'm not saying Kingpin is doing the Thunderbolts, but I could see whatever lots of shady stuff, these people that are very questionable in the gray area, that has Fisk all over it. So I guess that, I hope that answers your question. That I feel like I guess Eleanor. We'll have to find out the timeline too of when Val and her had that conversation, because clearly Yelena's been in New York for quite a while. She's watched her since they got the dog. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Did we want to go Eleanor? I have more to say on Yelena than Eleanor. So where do you want to go?
My last two things is, yeah, that's what I was saying in non-spoilers is, yeah, 100%. This is the setup to Echo show, and this is what gets me excited. And I think it's a smart way because Echo is like an unknown character. But now, you know, if Fisk is the whole thing, it's going to be like, I feel like a action mystery kind of thriller where she's going to be trying to figure out, you know, who killed her dad? Why did they do that? Blah, blah, blah. Because she played off like, oh, yeah, I still know, but Kazi's definitely going to say something to Fisk. And I feel like that's a smart way of Echo, where when we were watching the show, I liked the character, but I was like, I don't know how this is, like, I don't see how this is spinning off into, like, people are going to love this character. Now, I think people can love this character, but I think they're very smart, and Fisk is going to be a big selling point of that show. And I think you'll fall more in love with the Echo character, but up until this episode with the Fisk stuff and even more of Echo, I was like, I don't know why I see her getting her own show right away, you know, but now I go, okay, it's going to open up more branches to the New York kind of crime wing and stuff like that. Plus there's already rumors that Daredevil might be involved in Echo too. So if you got Echo, a new character from Hawkeye, you got Fisk, and then you got some Daredevil appearances, that will sell the show and that will get everyone hyped.
Yeah, it's a weird thing in retrospect, just thinking of like that they announced the Echo show like before we even like got introduced to the character, really. Like I get it, like you got to announce what your plan is, but I don't know, I feel like just knowing it after the show, it would have been it would have been more exciting because you know that Kingpin
Yeah.
is a direct tie to it. You mentioning these rumors that Daredevil might be a part of it. It's funny because I'm more excited for the Daredevil Fisk,
Oh, I know.
like meet up in the show, even though it's Echo's show. So I hope they do a good job at actually making it feel like her show and us wanting to watch it for the character of Echo.
And they got to be careful about that. We've talked about that with She-Hulk before, right? It's like, oh, you got Abomination, you got Hulk. It's like, we're excited for She-Hulk, but like, you also don't want to just make it be like also Hulk show, like all his stuff going on, where it's like, well, it's supposed to show, you know. Hopefully, it's more same thing with Echo. Hopefully, it's a way where it's not just we're tuning in for just Daredevil, you know.
No, absolutely. Do we want to go Eleanor or Yelena or?
All I was
What do you
gonna
think?
say is all in the game
Oh.
when he says Kang and Fist. Now again, easing off the whole boner thing. Never all in the game. The boner thing will never go away. There's some mistakes that can always leave a bad taste in your mouth. But yes, I think we're at that era of them hinting at a big villain and kind of undelivering. But I do think in the future they should probably stop. We've talked about this before. Kingpin, Power Broker, Boner, and Kang. I think in the future we should lay off the like, who is the mystery big bad that's behind everything? We've done it enough now. Kingpin should be the nice little point. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Where'd
ask
you
it
guys
for
wanna
the
go?
third time. Do you want to go Eleanor or Yelena? I have more to say on Yelena, so I don't know if we save the bigger one for after. Do you have much to say on Eleanor? The only thing I was gonna say was I I liked her the most in this episode just because the actress, I forget her name, but she showed a lot of emotion when she saw Kate like all
Vera
bruised and
Farmiga.
beat up. And what was that? What'd you say?
Vera Farmiga. That's her. That's her
Okay.
name.
I thought you said like fear the evil. I'm
I
like,
thought you
oh.
said that too.
Fratello.
No, but like I don't know, like I really believed her in that instance that I'm like, oh, this is like a loving mother that actually cares for her daughter. Because up until this point, I just haven't hit that like personally. I haven't bought into that. But the actress was able to sell those emotions on screen, which you got to tip off whenever an actress can sell that because that's literally what they're paid to do is sell the viewers on their characters. The one that like so all that was great, and then she drops the line of "You are the only thing that matters to me," and I'm like, okay, come on. Come on. Like, I feel like it's been proven in the show that that is not the case because, like, in the first episode, she just, like, really neglected her daughter because she was just in love with Jack and, like, oh, I'm marrying him, but I'm not going to fucking tell you the only person. No. The only thing that matters to me, not the only person. Like, you are the most important thing that matters to me. So I was liking the character, and then she showed that. I'm like, oh, right. I don't like Eleanor. I kind of got reminded, like, 2 minutes later. Travis Snell, GeekVerse podcast, defend her.
I'll push back. It might be the only thing because we don't know what's going to happen with this Jack thing. We've talked about this before. Her being with Jack could be completely her just setting him up. You know, like we've talked about this before that she could have killed Armand. She might not have any romantic feelings to Jack whatsoever. And if she doesn't, and she did actually, you know, call the police and set Jack up and all this stuff, that might be the only thing. Now, of course, there's the crime business stuff like that. But I mean, like the thing she actually wants to truly love and care for. I could believe it might be Kate. It all depends on the jackness of it all. Because I was surprised that he just got like, and that's where I will say the rushness of like the two things. We were like, oh, what are they gonna do with Echo? How are we gonna get this result? Oh, we're doing this big fight right here, and then which we'll talk about. Clint is like, hey, this is my face. Don't come after me, or I'll kill you. Okay, so I guess that's ended. And same with the Jack thing. Like, oh, what are we gonna do with the Jack storyline? We're just gonna walk into a room and he's getting taken away in cuffs, and Elmer's going, yeah, I phoned the police, and that storyline's done for. And I bet that will be mostly it. So I think once I learn more on the Jack thing, I'll see if I'm in your camp or not. But she could have just been sending him up and using him too, you know.
So yeah, I'm gonna push back on that. It was a little too easy, a little too convenient. Like, oh, Kate Bishop, this one thing that she wants to happen just happens conveniently. Eleanor didn't seem too caught up about it. Neither did Jack. Like, he just seemed like either Eleanor and Jack like discussed this. Like, okay, this is gonna happen. You're just gonna be the fall guy. There's probably some better written like reason for why this is the case. But I really still think they're in the same side because also just thinking back to the first episode, this marriage, I personally think it benefits Jack more than Eleanor. So and again, I could be wrong there, but that's just my feeling on it. I feel like we know Eleanor's up to some sketchy shit just because of what Yelena was revealing at the end of this episode. Jack, we know he's just sketchy since this show started.
We don't know he's sketchy.
What if he is just like, he could just be an idiot, and maybe Eleanor
red herring.
did just red herring. Maybe Eleanor did actually file him as being the.
I'm not
like, the
buying it.
culprit.
I'll have to see it, and then I'll admit I was
Jack's a
wrong.
nice guy.
I think it genuinely
not a
fits
nice
actually.
guy.
Like it could totally fit with the
He
story.
is a nice guy. He's reading books to be a good stepdad and stuff like that. You know, like no, I think there's a legitimately 50-50 shot that Jack has been completely set up. Now, I'm not saying he's never been a shady guy, but because maybe he was a swordsman and maybe he is just like retired from that life and he's moved on and everything. Like, I'll be interested to see next week if we see anything with Jack, but we might be too busy for that, you know?
I agree. I think we won't really get a solid conclusion or just explanation of where he is and what's happening with his storyline this season. I feel like there's too many things going on for that. But you know, whenever this show comes back and we get some answers on that, I'm excited to see who is right and who is wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll totally, I'll take the L. I'll take the L on the chest.
Oh,
there,
I'm sure in 3 months they'll announce the Jack spinoff show where it's him versus Eleanor and the swordsman and fuck. I don't care.
He's
Actually,
like the new hero.
yeah. A part of the Avengers. I don't care. I like the actor that plays Jack a lot too. I like the weird chumminess he brings to the role. So, but I like again, like that's my thought throwing out there, but I wouldn't like you saying that they're in on this and they're saying like, yeah, you're gonna get arrested, but you'll get you out. That's believable too, and that's the fun thing. Like that's been, I think, lots of the shows have felt like this, but the Hawkeye really feels like a comic book where like this feels like the end of an issue, and it's like, oh, what's gonna happen next week or next month and stuff, and that's cool because with Jack, we all have like these different scenarios how we feel could be playing, and it could be just an amalgamation of them all,
And I think that was some of the worries I had early on in the show is there's just so much going on. Like you said, some comic book stuff where maybe it leads to like a completely different issue. And it's like tune into this one issue, like a different series. Yeah. So I think I just felt messy because it was just not really what I've experienced in these MCU shows so far. But the way that this is like I felt like this episode was honestly like a saving grace for my personal feelings on the show, like in general, because I was rather scared after the last episode of just where we were going. 2 episodes left, and I thought, okay, we got the swordsman going to the police station. We have no idea what's going to really happen there, but at least we know what he's doing. He's not like behind the scenes. I don't know, just doing some bad guy mustache twirly type things.
He has a to be continued for the next season if we don't see him again.
He's got a to be continued. Yeah. We know at least Eleanor as like face to face with Kingpin, so that's another 2 things that are kind of answered right away. Echo went off on her motorbike. Like there's just a lot of things that I don't want to say got wrapped up, but they just got set on a trajectory. I think Travis used the wording there, and it makes the finale just seem a lot cleaner. I don't really know what I'm expecting in the finale, but I'm just not as worried as what I was last week, and that's I think that's why I'm so just pumped after watching this episode. Let alone the Yelena stuff that we haven't even talked about yet. But I think that's all I really had to say on Eleanor. I don't know, Taylor. You've been kind of quiet on Eleanor. What do you think?
At the beginning, when you kind of get that heartfelt moment between Eleanor and Kate, I just think it's worth noting, okay, like whatever sympathy and compassion you see coming out of Eleanor, it just seemed like you could throw it aside because I was just feeling uncomfortable at the fact that she's asking her about, does Hawkeye think you're a superhero? The questions kept coming back to Hawkeye. And again, there were subtle hints in the score. The music just sounded so sinister when she was talking. So
the piano from Eyes Wide Shut's playing.
Yeah. I'm going to this party later.
I just genuinely feel like she is like not like second in command, but like literally she's like probably one of like Fisk's like biggest assets, just especially just because of the security access that she's got.
Oh yeah.
Going.
It's a good resource.
He would love to have that. Oh yeah, no insecurity and stuff like that. So let's take our second ad break and then let's talk about the leader of Pew Boy Nation. I know she's a woman, but still she leads it all, Florence Pugh. So we'll be right back after this ad break. And we're back. So yeah, we got a lot more Yelena than I thought. So let's go in order of what we saw. So let's start off. episode
Opening.
opened with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it showed that she's on her quest, what they did with Black Widow, as far as she's releasing Black Widows that are, taking over. Unfortunately for her, she bumps into one that's not taking over and is living a life perfectly fine. So kind of a waste of a mission, but she goes to the washroom to go, wash her hands or something. Then boom, the blip happens, or sorry, the snap, and then the blip happens and she's back. It's been 5 years. She's in this house, and that person she was talking to that was a widow kind of updates her. I like that we got an answer of where she's been, because that's always with the snap, you have to answer that with every character, right? Because like, where have you been the past 5 years? That makes sense, especially why you would see where Natasha might be. She's pretty depressed in Endgame, and if she found out that like kind of similar to Clint, that anything else she did have is gone, that's a big downer. I will say though, I was not a fan of the pacing of this scene. I think the rest of the episode was fine. This one, and I think it's also a combo of like, the other actors in the scene were not that great. It was very wooden. Even then, like, even though Elena's like, I'm trying to take this all in, but it felt like they actually like, yeah, it's 5 years, and this, it just, that felt very rushed. When you go to what they did with Monica's blip scene with their mom in the hospital, that was a great blip scene. WandaVision, that was like, that felt the weight of it. This felt like, honestly, you could have just had her say, yeah, I was blipped and gone for 5 years.
I agree with you. I think the beginning felt a little disjointed. But honestly, oh no, he's
Did you see
completely
his
gone
face? Yeah.
now. One of those
Yeah, one
deep
of
thoughts. He was just pissed that he probably restarted his computer. That's probably what happened. He was so annoyed with this. So I'm gonna have to repeat myself, unfortunately. Okay. Oh, look at this. Look at this. He's back. I'm not gonna have to repeat myself.
I got blipped.
He did get Blake. Travis Snell. I personally think this scene should have been the end credit scene in Black Widow. I think it would have fit so much more, and it would have been so much more satisfying, because then you know what happened to her in the snap, because we'd already seen Endgame, so you didn't really need that scene. And I think if they had like the Val moment at the beginning of this, it's so much shorter, and it could have just been like, you don't have to have her like driving there, going up to the grave, and just as like emotional scene. Like, it literally could have just been Val giving her the photo or something, and then like that's a very quick flashback, and then it wouldn't have felt so long at the start of this episode, because it just felt very disjointed. And then it runs like the intro credits. But I 100% think that this should have been the end credit scene, and I would have been so much more hyped at the end of Black Widow, because I was so disappointed, I think, with the end credit scene in Black Widow. I believe I voiced that on the review. If not, that's how I felt. And yeah, no, I think it would have just fit so well.
So counter, I think story-wise you might be right, but for business-wise, I think you're wrong, because they wanted the like, oh, you got to watch Hawkeye at the end of Black Widow, right?
You're
That's what they
right, and I
wanted.
hate that you're right. I hate that
Yeah.
that's the reason. Honestly,
Yes.
like, I get it's a business and everything like
Synergy.
this, but like, as just like a fan of these movies, and like, like where Marvel is, it's just,
What
I
if
hate
you
that that's the reason.
combine the scenes and you got like a mini 5-minute film at the end of Black Widow? That's the only, I think, happy middle ground you can get, because they
Yeah,
want you
you're
to
right.
be, they want you to tune in. They want you to be like, when are you gonna see Lena next? Well, Hawkeye. So when Hawkeye comes, it makes sense. Where at the beginning, you like, again, you'd want that surprise, but that was a known fact, right? Kind of Florence being in the show, that's what they wanted to promote. So yeah, I
Yep.
think it would have felt better there, because it just felt strange getting this little mini, not strange, I guess it was just, I just wasn't vibing with it, and that's where I was a little worried. I was just like, I'm not digging this opening scene. Like I said, I didn't really like the actors or actresses in it, and that's some of the stuff that I felt was very rushy. Like, hey, she's blipped, she's in this mission, everything, go 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 go. You could have had her just talk all this with Kate Bishop. You really could have. Kate
Oh,
Bishop.
absolutely. Absolutely, but I still liked like the Black Widow side of it, and that's why I think it would have fit so well in the Black Widow movie. And then I also just love the effect of like her going down to wash her hands. It just turns to dust, and then like quickly, like it just goes to show what it would be like to be someone that was snapped and then blip back. Like, it's literally
I was
an
like,
instant.
what the fuck's going on? And then I was like, right, the snap. I was so
Yeah.
not confused, but I was like, what is happening in this
Well,
show? I was like, right.
It's great because it shows how she would have felt, like,
Yeah.
just completely twisted. Like, you just had this conversation with someone for 5 seconds, and for them it's been 5 years. Taylor, what do you think about this?
For me, when we get these blip moments, it's like an equivalent to getting Order 66 in all these mediums, and it hits me in the feels like, oh man, like we're getting this moment again. We're gonna get the trauma, the just the craziness involved with it. And again, What's up, Kirklin?
Speaking of Order 66, you got a really Darth Sidious like Christmas vibe going on. For the video viewers, they would know, but I'm digging it.
Merry
He's just wearing it for Maddie. He's just because Maddie said he
Oh, he
liked it.
is.
So now Taylor's gonna wear this
No,
every day of the year.
I've been. Well,
It's
I
gonna
do wear
it's
it
gonna
every
be
day.
summer. It's gonna be 40 degrees, and he'll be rocking this thing
This
like
is my Christmas plaid.
Maddie, you remember this? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
But no,
sorry, Taylor.
I think I just think that it just has a lot of emotion enveloped in it whenever we see someone get blipped, especially with Yelena, because we didn't know what was happening with her, and again, it's just another one of those main characters that's just been out of the loop for 5 years, comes back, and I just like that whole scene, the way it was filmed too, the paint like changing on the walls and everything like that. It was just super cool how they shot that and how it was just transitioning and just storms out, almost blows this fucking man, like his head off in front of this
Just
kid.
shoots
like,
the daughter.
fuck
Yeah.
you, am I?
Jones create another widow right there. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
What I was gonna say though, and it's interesting because obviously Black Widow ended with it's her and Red Guardian and Rachel Weisz, Evie. They all go off with the widows, right? So at the beginning of this, we say, okay, she's doing this whole widow thing. It also asks where have they been the past 5 years, and I think that'll be answered whether it is a Black Widow movie with Florence or a show, whatever. Before at the end credits, it's like, okay, she's alive and she's probably just still pounding around those people helping out Black Widows. Now it's been 5 years. So did they also get blipped? Did any of them pass away and stuff like that? So you got more story to tell there, and also tells her why she might be with Val, because maybe she was alone, disjointed from everything, and that's where she's kind of lost because she has nobody. So yeah, I think the ramifications of the scene are good. It's just the scene wasn't the greatest, but then we get a fucking banger scene of I don't care what people say. When the Avengers rolls around, you want to make another billion, $2 billion, $3 billion Avengers movie. You don't need Spider-Man. You don't need Silver Surfer. You don't need Dane Whitman from Eternals. You don't need any
Need
of these people.
Eleanor.
You need fucking Eleanor.
No,
and
you do not.
Jack.
No, you do not.
All you need is Gabe Bishops, Haley Steinfeld, and Florence Pugh's Yelena. Just those two. That's it. That's Avengers right there. That's all I need, because this scene was fantastic. These two have chemistry, and I don't care. Before anyone says out there, oh, you're a man, of course you're going to do this. We have shipped men and women. We have shipped men and men. I'm going to do it till it happens. They already got a good chemistry. That scene was back and forth. You could see something form. You could just see, like, I could see a data dynamic form, and I want to ship this. I want this to be a thing, because I want one of our main Avengers 2 to be actually in the gay community, and that'd be great if both these characters were. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be like the Poe and Finn people that fucking ride it because they didn't do it. But Star Wars missed a huge opportunity with not putting Finn and Foe together, because it was just like
Pin and foe.
Poe and Finn, because like the chemistry there was just like, it was just palpable, right? And it's just like, yeah, there's Finn and Ray and Oscar and the other girl. It's like, that's what we wanted. So give me that. That's one sidebar. But everything was great here because both actresses got to shine. Sorry, you had comedic moments. You had very like good switches of dramatic, which that's what Florence Pugh is great. Right when she needs to be, here she is. Phenomenal scene. I have things to shout specifically about this. But Taylor, what did you feel about the like they met last week, but this is the real first meeting of Kate Bishop and Yelena, obviously two probably future standard bearers of the MCU going forward.
So the whole scene where she was just cracking like jokes and everything, I didn't find it funny at all. I felt like this was just interrogation seriousness. Like she is testing, like Kate Bishop called out, like you saying my full name just so that you want me to be aware that you know my full name. Like that thing with the macaroni and everything, I just felt like, okay, this just feels like Natasha Romanoff just trying to like,
It's a widow tactic.
it's a widow tactic, exactly. And I was 110% all into this. I just thought it was great how she was kind of diving into this, and it was intense, it was heavy, and I think that in my personal opinion, I love the ability that they could grow and form a awesome mutual friendship. Whether that leads to them having that kind of a representation of them being more than just friends, I think that would be cool to have stars, head leads in the Avengers team kind of offer that representation. But I'm not going to be crushed if it doesn't happen.
Yes.
So I just think right off the hop here with these two characters that so far it seems like they got a really cool like energy and dynamic and relationship that could form, and I'm curious to see where it can go. So
And I guess they could be like the Young Avengers, whatever it's gonna be called. But I just think that would be also cool. Like we've talked about this. I think ever since we read House of M, we're just like we need more heroes dating. Wouldn't that be so cool if we had two Avengers members like dating and like just the dynamics you could play with that? Like whether it's male and male, female, female, male and female. I think there's like that's been untapped potential. Now maybe that's stuff they want to save for the X-Men because the X-Men kind of do that and
It's
stuff.
an
But
X-Men thing, I feel.
still, like let's who cares? Make it an everything thing, But it's just like that would be tons of fun. But it's it just reminds me of obviously it's not the same weight, but it's kind of like in Avengers when we got like Tony and Cap's first scenes together, and it's just fun seeing like these two characters from different franchises interacting, and you get that magic again of like fuck, like this is why we love the crossovers, because it's just like it's so cool to see these characters. Far we love Yelena and we love Kate Bishop so far. So Kirklin Pats, I'm sure you're all over this scene.
Yeah, this was my Loki Sylvie like train scene. Like this is what I wanted so badly. Like last week, I think I had some issues of like when Kate was going and like seeing the LARPers. I felt like we were wasting time. I didn't think we were like I could have taken an hour of this. Like honestly, just them dialoguing. It's similar vibes that I had from the Loki Sylvie scene on the train. Their chemistry is so great. Unfortunately for Haley Steinfeld, it just made me see the levels of like where Florence Pugh is.
100%.
Like it, like like this is Hawkeye, Clint Barton, and Kate Bishop's show. As soon as she's on screen, I'm like, man, Florence Pugh is just like the protagonist in the scene. Like this is just so on another level, and it sucks because I'm just seeing like the night and day comparisons here. I still love Kate Bishop, I still love Haley Steinfeld, but it's just fuck. I'm a Pugh boy more than I'm a Steinfeld boy.
To me, it's the same way like we talk about the U season 3 review. Like, oh, we all love Penn Badgley as Joe, but the second Love's in there, it's like, man, she's just like a different like level as far as like as an actor. And like I was noticing during the dinner scene, like I think Haley Steinfeld's so great. But just like the little emotions she does, and then you compare to Florence, just like Florence just like feels just like a living character. Where Haley, like, again, I'm not even trying to sound like knock her down, but just like okay, it still feels like this feels like you're playing a little bit of emotion. And I would say the same thing against Florence against other people. It's just like that's why we're lucky that she's in the MCU because she's going to be around for a while. So
future Oscar winner, you heard it here first.
100%, it's going to happen.
But yeah, no, I thought that scene was just so great. As soon as I saw like the bottle of sriracha, I like knew that that's what she caught. I'm like, oh fuck, she's gonna be in here, and this is what we're gonna have. And I am so glad it wasn't just like a quick 2 lines and then it goes to the next scene. Like we actually got to sit down and have dialogue there. Like Taylor was bringing up just like these little like tactical interrogation like moves that she's bringing into this conversation. It was great because it didn't feel like a full on interrogation. It goes to show the cleverness that Kate has, that she was able to like just like call it out like what are you doing here, like I don't trust you at all, like this is super sus. And again, like it gives some great depth to Kate's character because we know she's not just stupid, she's able to like notice these things, and then shows the cleverness of Yelena. And then I mean fuck, I am so in your camp. Ship these two characters. Let it happen. Don't have to force it, let it build up. I mean, and I'm kind of scattered because this just blew my mind, but they like you're mentioning like where we're gonna see these characters, whether it's Young Avengers or something. I'm very curious how the next episode is going to end, because I could almost see Yelena possibly being a bigger part if we have a Hawkeye season 2 like sooner than what we're expecting, just because I feel Hawkeye season 2, if we have Clint as like the main in this season, I feel like the next season it would be Kate. It's just like a natural passing of the arrow instead of a baton in that regard. And then just the back and forth that Yelena and Kate have. I don't know if it's just me willing this into existence, but I just want them to have like a buddy cop type. If it's not a movie, like a show would just be phenomenal for that. I'm not like confident or anything that that's going to be the case, but I just want this just because they're so great together.
Yeah, all I'm asking for is I just want them to be an equivalent to, like I said, Tony and Cap, where like if we get crossovers, they're like a duo, right? Whether they are friendly, whether they're butting heads, like because I just feel like, and I definitely am probably wrong. We'll do Avengers lineup, but I know there's bigger stars that like Captain Marvel's $1 billion franchise, right? And you got Sam as Falcon, but just like you still need those dynamics, and I think that would be really cool because I feel like it's the same way as like it's very fun, but like the same way, like I guess it is just coughing, but the same way Hawkeye and Black Widow had that, or sorry, Clint and Natasha had that connection on Avengers. You can kind of do that here, but again, they're both, even if you don't even do the love angle, they're both very different characters than
Yeah.
their predecessors, right? So I think that's fun. And I love the moment when she's just like, oh, but he's an Avenger. And then she's just like, but what does that even mean? Why is it just like, why do you get to be like, that word holds so much power? And you just be like, you're an Avenger, and that gets you from any wrongdoing, any sins. If you're deemed an Avenger, you're fine, you know? And it's just like, I love that she called them the question of like, they both are kind of talking shit because she's just saying, like, yeah, he for sure killed my sister with not knowing too much. But Kate's also being like, he's for sure a good guy. And she's like, how long have you known him? A week? And like, yeah, you know how much blood falls this guy? So I love that tackling of the idea of just because he's an Avenger don't mean he maybe made mistakes or is maybe a bad person. So I love that ideology. Like, obviously, again, once they all just fucking sit down in a room. That's my only negative is so clearly I feel like Yelena's the final boss of next week's episode, right? My only thing is like I feel like the fight's gonna end exactly with what we just got with Echo, where it's gonna come to a standstill and Clint's gonna talk her down and they're gonna come to some agreement. I think it'll be different because Yelena will actually like more agreeing, where Echo felt very uncertain. But they're not gonna fucking kill Yelena. They're not gonna put her in prison. So that's my only thing where I feel like it's gonna could feel very repetitive if it is Yelena as the final boss. It's just the Echo fight again, except Yelena's a much more of a badass, you know?
Yeah, I agree. To I feel like I agree, but also I don't know if it'll affect me that much when it happens because I mean I knew we were getting Kingpin. It still blew my mind when I saw him on screen.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll play for me.
It's just like a rarity because like so far, other than I'd say Falcon and Winter Soldier, we kind of had to like, okay, it's gonna be the big takedown, the bad guys, everything like that. But I remember WandaVision and Loki both going in those finales. We're like, what's gonna happen? Like, where could we go? I feel like we could sit down for half an hour and pretty much map out the finale. Which again, that doesn't matter. It's all about execution. Like I said, the scene with Kate and Yelena, if we get stuff like that, that makes the episode completely worth it and great. But just for like the final boss, but I will say so far, other than Loki, MCU's finales so far for the shows haven't been the strongest. And I feel like this is going to be the same where it's like puts a bow on things, but it just doesn't wrap it up in a complete satisfying way. Like I said, Loki, I feel like Loki was like top tier, but next week I'm expecting a good finale. But I just, like I said, I'm like, them doing that Echo fight so close to Yelena could be an issue for me. So I'm not sure, Taylor, where are you with that as far as next week with Yelena? Do you think she's the big bad? Do you think there's a twist? Do you think they maybe still make Fisk somehow the big bad?
Oh, I think like it's tricky with Yelena because I almost thought like, hey, we could get maybe she turns around a little bit, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think they're going to repeat the Echo situation. I think that Yelena seemed pretty confident on the fact that, hey, Hawkeye is bad and my sister saved the world, not Hawkeye. And I think she's going to run with that. She's much more loyal to Natasha. I was hoping for a moment that when Hawkeye had that very sentimental moment at the like ground zero of the Battle of New York, I thought that Yelena would be standing there behind him and he would walk away.
Just snipes him.
Yeah. I thought that she would have heard the whole thing and just maybe that would have helped put like the motions in for her to kind of like change her trajectory. But yeah, I think I don't.
So this is what I'm asking you. So if you say she's not gonna have the Echo thing, so do you think that the fight ends next week? There's a break part, and she's still just like, the next time I see you, Clint Barton, I'm gonna kill you. Because I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think they're gonna set
No, I
Yelena
don't
up for
think
whatever
that's the
next
case.
adventure is, and that's where like Kirklin was talking about, which is a good point. It's like, where do we see her next? And I think we'll probably talk about more of that next week. But I still feel like we're gonna go the route of a Black Widow 2 movie, just because Florence is a bigger star, and I feel like either that or at least her own show. She could appear in Hawkeye too, but I just don't see her being like, oh, she's a supporting cast member now. I feel like she will headline her own project at some point here. Kirkland with his ET finger.
So again, just this is me trying to will the two of them together. What if
Yes,
we have
yeah.
Falcon, Winter Soldier, we have just like Hawkeye and Black Widow, and then it's great because they're like the
Yeah.
new versions of Clint and what Natasha was. Because I'm assuming Clint is gonna not stick around too much longer in the MCU. I'm not
Semi-retirement,
saying
yeah.
he's gonna die, but like Yelena's literally just gonna be the new Black Widow. If like even if she's not called that, that's what she is. She's replacing Natasha, and then Kate's already Hawkeye, so it just
Yeah.
would be a natural one, and that could be a fun way, right? Because then that's technically like her own show. Like, yeah, she's
That I
pairing
could
it with
see.
someone.
Yeah, that I could see. Black Widow and Hawkeye, that sells them. Plus, yeah, that nothing sounds better than 6 episodes of them just doing shit together. If it's same thing like most of the stuff that I liked in Falcon Winter Soldier with the buddy dynamic, it's like if we were to
Yeah.
get that with Florence and Haley, yeah, 100%. So no, I'd be down for that. I just think that the next time we see Florence, it will be headlining some sort of project. But that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Taylor, you didn't answer that question. How does she end? If you think she doesn't end the same way as Echo, then what happens in that fight? Because I still feel like we're gonna get that scene of, oh, she sacrificed herself, blah blah blah. Because also, Yelena seems to know a lot of information for not being there. So I'm interested to see like who fed that to her, because it's like, yeah, Black Widow did save the world, but other people did as well. How do you know specifically he killed her? Stuff like that.
I do feel like you're right. We're gonna get that scene where she's gonna pop into play and she's gonna have that dynamic, that discussion with Clint, and they're gonna talk about like, hey, kind of shed more light on the situation, because I don't know how Val would be able to be like, yeah, Natasha had to die on Vormir when Red Skull called out her full name. Like, I don't know how
Val
Val
was
has
there
those
behind
things.
the Red Skull.
That's the big
Yeah.
twist. Meet our newest members of the Thunderbolt, and Red Skull walks out. Hey, I'm happy to be back.
But yeah, I don't think it'll be a massive battle. I think they're gonna kind of tie up her story like they did Echo's. I think we could see Echo in this last episode, just again to like put the cap off on her story. But I do feel like this episode, for at least Echo, tied it up, and I think the same will be for Yelena, and wherever we see her next. Again, I don't know yet. But sure, like another movie, because she is a big star, or continuing off another series. Who knows? I don't think you'll see Yelena and the Echo series at all crossover
No,
whatsoever.
I don't think so.
But yeah.
I flipped him, folks. I flipped Taylor. He had one thought. No, I talked him out of it. Let's take our probably last ad break and touch upon a few things. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So where do we want to go? We were talking about Yelena. Is there anything specifically on Yelena we wanted to talk about?
I mean, I could just talk about that dinner scene forever. That's probably their first date. If they are going a relationship route, they technically had dinner together.
I wanted
And
some
just
macaroni after that scene.
all of just the lines that Yelena brought. Again, it's what I fell in love with her. If I wasn't already in love with Florence Pugh at that point, I've just fallen in love with the character Yelena even more, when she's just, like this isn't cutlery. What is this? One fork? Like, well, I'm just one person. And like that dialogue together, that's why I need a whole show with those two, because I could just I was eating all that up. That was phenomenal. But other than that scene, actually, no, yeah, it is all in that scene.
Yeah. And then the only other time we
when
see her is when she's following Eleanor too, and she has a cool look going on, big jacket.
just looking like Florence Pugh in New York. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
amazing. Just
And I love when she's like, I'm here and I want to see the Big Apple, and like she's trying to be off so friendly and everything like that. She
Yeah.
does that so well. So
she does that so well. She's so charming, and with this Russian accent, it works so well. One specific line that I really pulled out was the new and improved Statue of Liberty that we're gonna see demolished in what is it, tomorrow, I guess, since it's 1:30 in the morning right now.
Statue of Liberty.
Like, actually, I know I thought that line was really, really quick, but it was something I caught on to just because I'm so fucking excited to see Spider-Man now. The line of collateral damage, my name. It was a very touching moment because, like, yeah, she's very emotional in that scene. She's like, what was she? Just collateral damage? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what she was. Like, she literally risked her life to get this job done so that everyone's alive. That's how you got back. It's I'm not picking it apart. I just thought it was funny because I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what she was actually.
Let's see. The only thing I just want to add for the Echo Rowan fight, I liked the entire fight. It was good that he So bold strategy of showing the face, but it's showing like he's turned, right, like he doesn't want to be the monster, because he kind of insinuated that last week, like, oh, you better stop, but he did that again, so he's almost like, you better not show up or I'll kill you. So he's like really like trying to bait them with that, like, I will kill you if you do this. But yeah, he showed the face, so he did like, you know who I am. And I think that was actually, we kind of talked around it, but I thought that was a natural way to point her into the Kazi Kingpin route of like, the only reason I was there is because someone tipped me off to tell me to go there, and that's like a fun thing. But I like the fight, taking out the guards, very Batman Begins style. I think the fight was good with him and Echo. They both he got the upper ground, but the only reason she turned around is because he was talking and stuff like that. So, but she got a moment to shine again. So I like that. He's good. And like Taylor's shout out, I loved the memorial thing. That was great to see. I love those little touches of New York and the world. And again, like him talking to Natasha is just like, it just is good for anybody. I feel like I'd love to talk to people that really hated the way Endgame handled their death. I feel like the show is doing that very well, but I love just seeing that stuff like the day the Avengers assembled, and it's just like their names and like it's his
so cool.
Thor Odin's son on a plaque. Like I know that's his name, but it's just like, fuck, that's so weird. But it was a great moment, and I love that he was like, I got to do this. I'm sorry, Natasha. Now, one more I want to bring up is. Again, so we didn't talk about this last week, but there's been people running rampant with this theory about his wife maybe being a former SHIELD agent or Mockingbird and stuff like that. He called her this week, and he said like, "Oh well, Maya has to watch and knows about us and the family." Now, so I watched Hawkeye episode 5 again today, or 4 again, yeah, and I really don't believe that it is because somebody was like, "Oh, he's just talking about Tony." I really don't, because when Kate asked like, "Oh, what would happen if this watch was found?" He's like, "Oh, they'd be in some big trouble." I think people's theories, because this wasn't my own, I think people put in that theory that she might have been a SHIELD agent or something like that. It's feeling a bit more relative, because I just don't know if that watch, and he's talking about the family, and it's someone out of commission. I don't know. What do you think, Kirklin, so far about? We haven't got fully revealed about this watch, but they were talking a bit about it concerning the Bardens, pretty much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm excited to find out for sure next week, like what this watch even is. I think I like the thought of Laura being like someone along the routes, just because I really like her as a character. I like her being more than just like Clint's side piece. I guess not side piece, the main piece.
Whoa! Now we know how Kirkland's gonna refer to his wife one day. What's up, side piece?
Side piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just like her being more important than just like Clint's wife, the father. Fuck, it's late. The mother of his children. I like the importance of her. I like those little snippets of her just like speaking. What was it, like another language in Russian or whatever it was, that code that they're using last week?
I think it was German last week, actually.
German, okay.
Because people were like, there was that fun thread of like, she's a Hydra agent, former Hydra agent. Like, well, I don't think we're going that far. Right. Yeah,
she's Zola.
Hello, Mr. Biden.
So I think I like that route, and I'm kind of hoping something comes of it, like her related, but I don't have any solid theories or anything on it. I think I'm just still so blown away that we got Yelena popping off in this episode that I didn't really think about the watch too much, but I'm just excited to know what it is next week. I hope it's not disappointing.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Taylor? Where are you on this theory that's been kicking around the internet the past week?
Well, I think everything kind of points to Laura. I mean, it really does. I'm definitely not opposed to it being like getting her more into the the MCU, because we don't really have her much, and she's a really good actress. So it'd be cool to see her kind of have a more prominent role.
She's always just in some fucking house cooking dinner.
She's always in the house. Yeah,
like even Age of Ultron, she was at the house. Like in Endgame, she's outside of the house cooking hot dogs.
She's not allowed to leave the property.
She's
great side piece. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah, you cannot leave this. I have an arrow that will.
I saw another theory that people were speculating, like, oh, it could be like Captain America, and it's just like keeps it secret as to like what he really did. But
yeah,
I don't know about theories like that.
The multiverse where Peggy and Cap dance.
Why would the Tracksuit Mafia be like, we need to find out where Captain America?
Yeah. Even though I do agree, because I think every time Captain America comes out in current continuity, Brandon Marvel Alliance always bring this up. I do want to know what the public status of Captain America is. What does the public think happened to Captain America? I know there's those jokes about he's on the moon, but I feel like if he survived the Battle of Endgame as the planet Earth, I'd want to be like, where is Steve Rogers? Where is this man that could help us at any
Well,
point?
well,
Maybe they have just said he's dead, but
I would imagine that would be cleared up in the Captain America movie with
true.
the new Cap. But can you can you picture it being touched upon before then? Like we have the new
Unless
Statue of
there's an
Liberty.
Avengers
That's like
movie.
okay.
Like if
I was,
there was an Avengers movie before the Captain America movie, I think
yeah.
inevitable Avengers movie, they would talk about past members and where they are and what happened. So
I was also thinking possibly in a day or two when we see Spider-Man, like we have that giant Statue of Liberty
Mhm.
of the new, it's got Cap shield. I could totally see just one of the students like talking about it, or maybe it's on a news thing, like just quickly mentioned there.
what happened? Oh well, you see this fucking Green Goblin guy? They apparently said he had some skeleton bombs, and he just skeleton Captain America. He just bodied him.
Out am I?
Yeah, it's over for you, America. Let's see. We got more grills action. We got more grills action in this. We
Dude,
got
I
to
love
go-
Grills. I'm so
Yeah.
glad he's sticking around.
We got to go to his apartment, and again, anytime they do that, it's fun. I think they're hitting up those Matt Fraction vibes, and he's fun. And again, we didn't get to see it. We'll see it next week. He pointed out, "Oh, your costumes are just back there," and this was the point where they had broken up. I guess I forgot to mention, I loved Kate's all her calls to Clint's phone. And
Yeah,
just, like,
I made note of mentioning that. That was so
great
good.
comedic stuff, just like, and she sells it because that scene could be very cheesy or just kind of like you won't even think about it because Kate, and that's where before if it sounded like I was downplaying her, no, she's still a great actress. Her definitely is more on the comedic bit, and that was so great. Just like, I know you're ignoring me, and just like, oh, Jack got arrested. Oh, I'm talking about a woman, but I don't want to talk it over the ground, and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
I think that's like where she just excels, and I don't want to say that's like where she peaks because I think she can do so much more than that as an actress.
Yeah.
But that is just in her wheelhouse. Like that is, it's like just like it's, fuck. What am I even trying to say? It's like
It's her
riding a bike for her.
strength,
Like
yeah.
it's so easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
it's the same way as Downey, right? If you're gonna get back in the day with Avengers, who's doing the comedy? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, Downey's the go-to guy, right? I'm not saying that she has to be the comedic person, but all in the game says Sam needs to be established as Cat first in the big screen before an Avengers movie. I would agree to that. I'm just saying, like, if you were to hear about the where-being of Captain America at some point, those are the options. But I do think you will get a Cap Sam movie first, and because they haven't even announced a fucking Avengers movie, they've announced the Captain America movie. I think Avengers is still like pretty not like I still think within 5 years, but it could be near that 5 year mark, because they're doing
Mhm.
a lot of building and everything like that. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, Grills, that's great. Like they stick around, gives you some Matt Fraction vibes, and then my only I'm not sure if you guys watched the credits. My last thing was it ended with the New York buildings had Kate on one building, Clint on one, and then in the background on the skyline was the shadow of Wilson Fisk. Very, very cool. If you didn't catch that, go
Ooh, no,
watch
I
it.
didn't.
It's like big and he's bald. Yeah, it's like he's watching over them, but watching over New York. It's a very fun little touch because I was watching it because I was like, is there gonna be any credit scene? But very cool. And I think again that even if we don't get a much in this show, I feel like this is especially with, like I said, Hawkeye saying this is the setup to, okay, you're going to see this villain a lot. And it's kind of what we wanted, right? We want him to be around. We want him to be a mini, Avengers level, like a New York level threat or something like that. I don't need to see Kingpin trying to get the gauntlet together, but if he's ruining the days for multiple heroes, perfect,
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other notes? Anything you guys want to shout about this episode before we end it?
Yes, I have a couple things here.
Do
Leading up to the Echo scene at that junkyard. I love when Clint shoots that arrow message to the Tracksuit Mafia guys. It's just a badass arrow. And did I start with B? No, I'm getting tired
start
here.
with A.
So yeah, B. Just getting that Tracksuit Mafia dialogue. I just love them in the comics. So it's just anytime I get sprinkled with some Tracksuit Mafia comedy, I love their dialogue. I love when they're jamming to Run DMC. All that stuff's great. I think they're using the Tracksuit Mafia well because I feel like if you're not too familiar with the Matt Fraction run, you could just be annoyed. Had a note just I'm glad that this episode left Echo in the more neutral or anti-hero route as opposed to she felt like a threat to our hero Clint. I think at the end of this episode they sent her on that trajectory, which is really good. And then I love that scene when Kate is telling Clint that she met Yelena. yeah, my gosh, I'm tired. She met Yelena telling her to Clint, and then Clint Oh no, that's how it was. Okay, I wrote it wrong in my notes. So she tells Clint that she interacted with the Black Widow. And
Mhm.
then Clint says like Yelena question mark, which is
Yeah.
meaning that Natasha actually talked to Clint about Yelena, and I think that's
Mhm.
just such a small thing, but like it's just so great for like the characters of and the relationship that Clint and Natasha had, because we're not going to see that on screen, unfortunately, because I think ScarJo's done with the character and Natasha's dead now. But it's just in like it just fills in some cracks of like their dialogue and what they would have been talking about. Like they actually talked about their personal lives and their personal things that they had, not just
Mhm.
mission things. And we saw a little bit of that. Like obviously we saw Natasha interacting with Laura and the kids and all that stuff, and all that stuff's great. But I like that just that one subtle line was dropped from Clint, and it just you could see on his face like it made it a lot more personal. This threat, like it's not just someone that he can just kill. Like it's like, oh okay, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
like deal with this like head on.
That's
And
his first move, just headshots or sword, Natasha.
yeah, so I thought that was great.
Yeah, and hey, that might save his life, right? Like, there's a good chance that
Yeah,
him saying that, and plus, when she finds out his son's named after Natasha, stuff like that. So it's
yeah,
they'll figure it out. So,
totes.
Taylor, anything to add?
Ooh, nothing I can think of. Just it's good. I'm penciling it in. Come probably January because we're just so busy in this month of December. Come January, I'm gonna be like, Madison, we're gonna go through Daredevil. We're gonna get through the whole series.
Oh yeah, you got to get ready.
Bold
It's gonna be
claim,
fun
bold
because
claim.
no matter what happened, obviously we all sound like we really enjoyed the episode, so that's a good thing. But no matter what happened, Kingpin is officially in the MCU, and it's a good day. It warms my childhood heart, who grew up on comic books in the '90s animated show of dun 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 dun, that shot of Wilson Fisk Tower and him always yelling about Spider-Man. So, yeah, we got this. We got Spider-Man. It's a good week to be an MCU Marvel fan. So, thank you very much for tuning in and listening to this. If you liked our review tonight or the ones previously, we will be back next week with Hawkeye, the finale, which is crazy. It's already here, the final episode, and I think we're gonna have some conclusions. There are gonna be some new setups, and there'll probably be a tasty end credit scene or two, because I think so far the shows have done a really good job at, maybe not Falcon Winter Soldier, but the other shows have done a good job of leaving just a nice little nugget to chew on and talk about. So we'll be there, and we promise you, not be boring.
See you later.